Welcome to this edition of Your Trades, the week ahead, and what a manic week it has been. Actually, part of the madness really came in on Friday when you had Infi's earnings. So gap down start for that stock, and it dragged the market lower, left it testing the 5,500 territory.
Yeah, for everybody who was thinking that maybe the market has bottomed out, Pat came out, Infi brought down the IT index, and yeah, the markets as well. So interesting week ahead, in fact, lots more earnings lined up as well. And it'll be interesting to see what the index does then.
Oh yes, sure. Though on a net basis, it's down just about 0.3% for the index. But don't go by that, because we've left the week testing that 5,500 mark, got scaringly close to that level even during the week on Tuesday, or so to speak. Banks, they've actually been resilient to the kind of market volatility we've seen. So held out by about 3% for the bank nifty. Power, healthcare, FMCG, auto, real estate all did well. IT took a knock off 10%, the index that is, and the contribution, of course, came in from Infi, which saw a downslide of about 21% intraday on Friday, reacting to its earnings. Metals were the other weak pocket. So predictably then, the laggards had Infi at the bottom of the heap. You also had JSPL, Ranbaxy, ONGC, as well as M&M part of that list. On the flip side, the week turned out pretty well, not just for banks, but for pharma as a pack as well. So Lupin, Cipla were two such cases in point. JP Associates, Tata Motors got sort of arrested, or rather the fall on account of the JLR numbers. So that stock did pretty well. Ambuja Cement, DLF, Ultratech, ICICI Bank, Reliance Infra, HDFC Bank were all gainers.
Yeah, pharma held out for the broader end of the market as well. So stocks like Aurobindo Pharma, Fresenius Kabi, there were a couple of others which had a fairly decent week gone by, considering what we did on the mainstream stocks as well. There was a Delta Corp, which had a stupendous week, really. For all the losses that it had, it's bounced back quite smartly, so 22.5 for that one. Sugar, as a week, had a volatile one, though these were the stocks in news, and I think some of them reacted very well in Friday's session and therefore recouped all of the losses that they had for most part of the trading week. Last but not the least, just keep an eye out for some of the banking names. We spoke about the large caps, but the mid caps like Yes Bank, for example, which will come out with numbers, and they have had a slightly iffy week, 2, 3, 4% the kind of gains for Yes Bank, and IndusInd Bank comes out with numbers as well, and it'll be interesting to see what they do for the next session. Okay, let's talk about what the markets are looking like on the charts. What about some of the specific names as well? Dr. C.K. Narayan to speak about the charts, Prakash Dewan to speak about the fundamentals, and both of them join us right now on the show. Good having you, gentlemen. Thanks so much for taking the time out. Dr. Narayan, it promised to be a volatile week, and it lived up. And just when everybody thought that it will go down all the way to 5,450, 5,400, it bounced back on Thursday, only to be disappointed by Infosys and being dragged lower. What do the charts suggest? Are we headed lower next week?
I think I'll answer your thing in two parts. The first part saying that it headed down, sub 5,500. I think at that point of time, some sort of cycles were actually kicking in and indicating that market would find a low around there and actually bounce back. Now, no doubt, coming to the second part about the disappointment with respect to Infi, it is no doubt something which is a little more than what most people had actually thought it would do. If you look at the option pricing, it was actually indicating a gap of about 5 to 8%, but what we got is a 20% hammering. And for the week, it's down by about 21, 22%. So I think Infi, on a per stock basis, has taken the market by a bit of a surprise, more than what most people thought it would do. But that has not really affected the rest of the market. If you looked at the market as a whole today, Infi and the other IT stocks actually would have, led to some 80, 90 points fall in the value of the Nifty, whereas the Nifty did not finish so much lower. So which means that the rest of the market actually moved up a bit. The Nifty could not move up because of the drag of Infi, but I think Bank Nifty was a key there, showing you some upward traction. So I think come Monday, when Infi pressures are off, I think Nifty would behave a little more normally. So we'd have to take today's low at 55.15 on futures as a kind of a higher bottom, which would make for a small rally in the coming week.
Okay, Infy clearly was the stock of the week. Can't say because of the positive moves, but because of the downfall the stock had. Up until Thursday, you saw a fair amount of run-up in the stock, and then came the earnings and a downslide, a nosedive, so to speak, only to close in at the lowest point. A 20% vicious cut is what you've seen on Infy. 22.96 is where the week left it off for this particular stock.
Prakash, it was disappointing, no doubt. The question really is, fundamentally, with the valuations that it is trading at as well, and the guidance pace posted, do you think it can go down lower as over the next 2 or 3 weeks, or probably even more?
I guess it should, Dheeraj. The markets, suddenly become very fickle about these things. We've seen last time, when the numbers were so promising and beyond expectation, everybody came out with targets of 3,100, and suddenly you have now people talking about 2,200. Very clearly, the disappointment is much more severe. For the fact that, you can't be according a 14-15 multiple to a company that's just going to be growing at such suboptimal numbers. I mean, and the headwinds are going to be much stronger. You have a wage hike that's in the offing. You have taxation that's going to be heavier. So my sense is Infy would very well test about 1,900 levels in the next couple of months. I know it sounds drastic, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if market sentiment turns for the negative for IT as a whole. Infy would be probably getting the maximum drubbing out of that, and 1,900 levels could also be tested very easily.
Dr. Narayan, I know you started off this show saying that maybe the bottoms that we saw on Friday's session could be the near-term double bottom, and we could actually head higher. Can telecom do the same with the markets, or do you believe they remain sluggish, the likes of Bharti and Idea?
Clearly, telecom is into a downward swing and not really keeping pace with the market. The rally in Idea, Bharti and all were quite some time back, and recent times they have been actually plugging the depths, and it does seem that it would drop down to somewhere around the 250 area. Now, 250 area has been proving itself to be a good demand area. We saw it reached down into those areas back in 2008, did it again in 2010, 2012. So periodic visits to this area have all found, willing buyers there. It remains to be seen whether those set of buyers are willing to buy it once again, or, the pall of doom which actually covers let's say the telecom sector will see them give it a pass. But then 250 is definitely on the cards for Bharti.
CK, is there anything that you like out of the mid-cap pharma space which could be bought into come Monday morning?
I think if you look at it from the future space, then Aurobindo Pharma is the standout. But then I think Aurobindo is just going to rally. It's already seen a decent move up. So I would rather concentrate on the larger cap pharma. I think there the traction is much better. Stocks like Lupin, Ranbaxy, Dr. Reddy are showing much better signs of trend strength and willingness to hold on or persist with that trend strength, showing decent build-up in fresh interest. Volumes are up. Everything is positive in the large cap pharma rather than the mid cap. I think mid cap is a little more of a go-go, maybe with the exception of Biocon. That's probably the only one which I could think of punting at the current level of about 290. Other than that, I would stick with the large caps.
Dr. Narayan, Infy has done what it has. What about the others? Is there a trading opportunity in a TCS, HCL Tech or a Wipro?
Well, I would think most people would now have expectations out of TCS, because that's a natural shift if you want to make something out of Infy. So that will buoy up the stock a bit. But if you look at HCL Tech and let's say TCS from a point of view of increased deliveries or increased addition in OI, there really hasn't been any significant change. So, the numbers are all there. So I think most of the action has got suddenly concentrated on Infy, and no build-up of any sort has really happened on HCL Tech or TCS, which probably could happen across the next few days, and that is what we'll have to watch. Insofar as the trends are concerned, I think HCL Tech would probably take the baton for the best, being in terms of a trend string. But I would venture a little further away and look at something like Tech Mahindra also, or venture out into some of the more quality mid-cap IT. I think there is going to be a kind of reorientation in terms of, let's say, holding patterns, including among the larger players. I think funds are going to shift their money around, and they'll probably be fishing for more names than only Infy and TCS perhaps.
the top stocks to bet on. And Prakash, I see you do believe that a banking name could actually do well next week. What is it that you like? Banking, non-banking?
Well, out of the banking pack, Karnataka Bank, we've seen it get into some sort of a traction in this week. And on the Friday's session, we saw a huge spike thanks to some significant institutional interest coming in. And, even otherwise it's bottomed out at these levels, and the upside could be quite dramatic from here on. So that's one bank that I believe, especially with the banking norms getting announced, would start getting into that M&A buzz very soon. So positive news flow, a decent balance sheet, there you have it, and it's already into traction.
Okay, time to get your trading ideas then for Monday morning. CK, what is it that you've picked out?
Well, I have a pharma name and a banking name, two safe plays, I think, for the next week. The pharma name I have picked is Dr. Reddy. I think at about 1910, 1920 seems to be a decent bet for the coming week. I think it has enough legs to kind of power its way up to even a new high near 2000. I would keep a stop of about 20-30 points and look for a very strong up move during the week. The second name is Karnataka Bank, just as Prakash mentioned, all the positives, and incidentally hardly any addition in the OI and futures, which indicates that most of the up move which has happened during this week is probably from mainly delivery based buying, which is a very strong positive. I think at about 130-35 stock has very low risk on it, and I would be looking for a target about 155-60 in the coming week.
Great. Dr. Narayan, Prakash, thanks so much for joining in, gentlemen, and giving us your views. Have a great weekend.